It's lovely to see you all again. Was it Josh who said the last time I met you, you were at my 5th birthday party? So, it's great that you're here today, Josh. But equally wonderful is there are so many people here that I've never ever met before. And I'm hearing wonderful things about the activity in the party in Enfield, Southgate. And can I join in congratulating Joanne on her brilliant re-election, because she wasn't just re-elected, she had a big, big swing to Labour. I think the biggest that is a reflection of her hard work as the Assembly member, but I know also the hard work of party members and supporters across Enfield and Haringey. It's great that Anas and Chris and David are here, and I see Douglas Alexander is here with us as well this evening. We've got a very, very big battle on our hands, as David and Chris and Anas and Joanne have already said this evening. We've just passed the halfway mark of this Parliament. We are in the second half of the fixed-term Parliament, and we've got a big challenge ahead of us, because I think Chris is right, we are ahead. But we've got a lot of work to do, and we shouldn't take anything at all for granted. And I know that the Labour Party in Enfield won't do that. I think we probably will win the by-election on Thursday in Corby, and that's going to be a great result for Labour. Less predictable is what's going to happen in the Police and Crime Commissioner elections. I think we might scrape in Merseyside, where we have an excellent candidate in Jane Kennedy, who's a former Member of Parliament and a former Minister. But then we have big challenges ahead, and I know that you will be working very hard to keep Enfield Labour in the council elections in 2010, to hold on both in Palmer's Green and Bowes, but I hope also to be winning Southgate Green, because Southgate Green is a ward that can be won in those crucial elections, and then in 2015 to hold Edmonton, to win back Enfield North, and then that big prize. I remember in that not very pleasant night in 2005, when I lost the seat, one thing I said in my concession speech was that I am the first ever Labour MP for Enfield Southgate, and I'm confident I won't be the last. And whoever ends up being the candidate, I think it is really important that every effort goes in to win in Southgate, but also crucially to win in Enfield North, because that's the seat we need to win if we're going to form a government again. David made the point that all of those great achievements that I think Chris listed of Labour in government over the 13 years and over the previous half a century we can celebrate, but actually for most of the last 100 years we weren't in government introducing the NHS and Sure Start and all of the other things that have been listed. We were in opposition watching the damage being done to this country. Now I think we have potential here for this not just to be a one-term period of Tory-led government and therefore Labour in opposition, but for this to be a stepping stone for the 21st century to be a very different century to the 20th. As David said, for most of the 20th century, the Tories were in power, we were in opposition. Let's work really, really hard to ensure that this century is the opposite. We can make the 21st century a Labour century, a progressive century, and I know that the people in the room, the ones I know, the ones I don't know, will work hard to achieve that. I joined the Labour Party in Enfield Southgate 30 years ago. I know I don't know enough, but it's very kind of you to say so. As well as discovering that last time I saw Josh was his 5th birthday, several people as I arrived in the room commented that I'm a little larger than I was in 1997, which is absolutely true, so I can't quarrel with that. But it is great to see a number of people here tonight who I knew from those days, Tony Cleary, Bambos, from those days campaigning in the harsh years of the 1980s, and they were tough times. And some of the things that we're seeing now from this government mirror things that they did in that time. But the big difference between the Labour Party that I joined in 1982 and the Labour Party now in 2012 is that that Labour Party was divided, turned in on itself, obsessed with internal debates and really divorcing itself from the electorate. The big lesson, the big positive of these last 2.5 years is that actually that hasn't happened. Those who predicted that we'd do that this time have been proved wrong. The unity and common purpose in the Labour Party, whether it's in the shadow cabinet, the parliamentary party, right the way through the party, is there and there to see. And that is a crucial ingredient to our chances of success next time. So thank you for inviting me back. Just brilliant to see so many people here, and good luck for the future.
Forum Shadow Forum Secretary, here to speak to us.
Abraham, thank you for that introduction. I'm not entirely clear that I've done very well being asked to speak after Stephen Twigg to a group of friends from Enfield, Southgate, but I was very keen to accept the invitation to be here, not just because I'm delighted to be alongside Stephen and David, Abraham, Joanne and others, but also because I wanted to start this evening simply by acknowledging the work that Enfield Southgate CLP has done in recent years. Whether that is the success that you are having recruiting new members through the Plus One scheme, whether that's the establishment of the new website, whether that is the kind of active campaigning work, which means you are already recognised as one of the most active and dynamic constituency Labour parties in London, I wanted to begin by saying thank you. But I also wanted to make a broader point about Enfield Southgate and where it sits in relation to the community I represent. Stephen and I have just discovered share something in common. We both joined the Labour Party in 1982. I joined in Renfrewshire, the community that I represent. Stephen in Enfield, the community he went on to represent. And we shared a political journey, not of triumphant and repeated success for Labour, but often bitter and repeated defeat. Defeat in 1983, defeat in 1987, defeat again in 1992. And in that sense, where my politics comes from reflects those hard years in the community that I now represent, a time when unemployment was judged to be a price worth paying, where a generation of young people were written off and literally thrown on the scrap heap, where we didn't take care of our old people and frankly we didn't take care of our young people, where the ruling orthodoxy was there is no such thing as society, you are on your own. Now, in that sense, it would be remiss of me to speak even briefly this evening without acknowledging how tremendously proud I was of the achievement of Stephen being elected in Enfield Southgate in 1997. Most people say, where were you for the Portillo moment? I actually had the very rare distinction of having been in a Scottish constituency. I stood first in Perth and didn't manage to win in greatest landslide in Labour's history in 1997. So I had mixed emotions that night as I watched colleague after colleague, friend after friend triumphantly elected in the most unexpected circumstances, while thinking, I wonder how I'm going to explain this to people, that as a Labour candidate in a Scottish seat, the reason was it was a SNP seat, we had a non-Conservative incumbent, and the rest, as they say, is history. Just a few months later I found myself in very different circumstances elected in my own home patch. But that night, you did something incredibly powerful, which was a service not just, I would argue, to constituents in Enfield Southgate, but is relevant today because it had a relevance right across the country. Because the point I want to leave you with tonight is not to suggest that I have anything like the knowledge of Enfield Southgate, that David is a neighbouring MP, that Stephen is a former MP, or all of you know as citizens and residents of that community, but to say what you